Okay, namaste everybody. Welcome back. We're back with the Astrology, and we're continuing our series on Beeja mantras and nakshatras. So welcome and namaste Astrology. And today will be she'll be teaching us the Beeja mantra for Shatabhisa Nakshatra. So over to you, Astrology.
Okay, I'll just share my screen. All right. So today is going to be the last nakshatra of Swadhisthana chakra. So the last nakshatra also connected very strongly with water element in that system. And it's very interesting because, as I said already before, that whole this cycle is starting from Purvashada, which has Apa Devi, so the Devi of water as its presiding deity, and it finishes with Shatabhisa, which is ruled by Varuna. So water starts and water ends this cycle, and it's very symbolic and beautiful in a way, because water is connected to many things, also with the feeling of purity, impurity also the feeling of guilt is, I feel very strong, how to say, blockage in second chakra that very often appears. That's why we are going to talk a little bit about it today, about this feeling of guilt and shame, which also appears in Shatabhisa Nakshatra, and which is also strongly connected to Purvashada. So I think we'll be jumping a little bit from Shatabhisa to Purvashada just to grasp the concept. So let me just start with the mantra. Om Lam Shatabhisa Nakshatraye Namaha. Om Lam Shatabhisa Nakshatraye Namaha. Om Lam Shatabhisa Nakshatraye Namaha. So that was the Beeja mantra for Shatabhisa Nakshatra. And if we take just this Beeja, Lam, which is also, by the way, the Beeja mantra for the first chakra at the same time, so it's also important to mention that thing, we'll see that we can create two interesting verbs also from the Beeja itself. So first one, Lam, is the verb to take pleasure in Sanskrit, which is very often can be a weakness of Shatabhisa Nakshatra too, because it's ruled by Rahu. So Rahu always wants more. And another one is Lach, to be ashamed. And when I just look at these two verbs, just combined together on one paper, it's really very much kind of a problem sometimes, especially with spiritual people. They connect pleasure immediately with the feeling of guilt. So that's why second chakra, I noticed that very often it tends to be the weakest chakra also of people who are on spiritual path, because somehow they just have a problem with combining and somehow integrating this water element with worldly things and spiritual things at the same time. So I wanted to come back here to this one picture, to Purvashada Nakshatra. As we remember, this is the picture of Indra, who is doing his tapasya, who already has his 100 eyes on him, and who is trying to atone for his sins. And I noticed very often that especially if Purvashada Nakshatra is afflicted, like let's say by Saturn, Mars, Rahu, whatever, then maybe Rahu even not so much, but more like Mars and Saturn, then very often what it produces is a feeling of guilt and a feeling of impurity. You can even notice that these people tend to take shower like 3 times a day, literally. And it really happens because it's the deity of water, the deity of purity. And in extreme cases, it can even give skin diseases, which we can again see by the marks on the body of Indra. But psychologically, also what it shows is, what shows these 100 eyes on the body of Indra, that all the eyes are on me. Everybody's seeing me, everybody's seeing through me, everybody's seeing my guilt. I feel ashamed. And what I wanted to say about that regarding Purvashada Nakshatra, because Shatabhisa is right opposite. Shatabhisa is not, I am the guilty one. You are the guilty one. The world is guilty. Because here Rahu is the predominant deity. And Rahu tends to blame the world and blame God for things that are not fair, that are not equal. Because also the symbol of Shatabhisa Nakshatra is a circle. So it wants to make everything equal, everything fair, everything beautiful. And not without a reason, the deity of Shatabhisa Nakshatra is Varuna. it's kind of interesting to see how opposite is that, because we see here Indra has 100 eyes on him, but Varuna, he said that he has 1,000 eyes through which he's seeing the world. So it's complete opposite, because now these 1,000 eyes are looking for guilt in somebody else. Because this nakshatra is very strongly connected with the mythological story of Mohini Devi, which everybody knows for sure. But just to remind that this is the story where Mohini Devi, Vishnu took an avatar of Mohini just to distribute Amrit, the nectar of immortality. So just the Devas could get it. And of course, Rahu was the one who didn't got it. He didn't got the Amrit, and he was like, this is not fair. It shouldn't happen like that. Both demons and gods, they were both working very hard to get this nectar of immortality. Why I cannot get that? And I noticed this particular quality to be very prominent in people with some prominent planets in Shatabhisa, especially if it's Rahu in Shatabhisa Nakshatra. They're like, why things are not fair towards me, especially me, but also why things are not fair in the world. Because they are just looking at this limited part of their life, and they forget that there is law of karma that is overlooking everything. And ultimately, Varuna, who is the deity of Shatabhisa Nakshatra, he's the god of karma. We can see that he has a pasha, rope here, with which he's binding. And for me, it was particularly interesting when I was trying to look a little bit how Varuna was described in Vedas and how he was described later on in later scriptures, even in Puranas and so on. And in the Vedas, you have this beautiful depiction, like on this picture, that he has beautiful body, he holds 3 lotuses in his hands and a robe also, and that he's god of the clouds also. And this beautiful description, god of righteousness also, because so he's like the god of this cosmic balance, cosmic order. Like the water, it just wants to put everything into order and make everything equal. But when you look already at the description of Varuna from later on, from later scriptures, Puranas even, you can see that he's described like being ugly, fat, and very dangerous, riding on Makara, and so on and so on. And this is very contradictory in a way. If you see that in Vedic Pantheon, he was so worshipped and he had so high position, and later on he kind of so degraded so much just in iconography. And I thought that this is very symbolic, because this is also how we are perceiving karma now. Because in ancient times, in Vedic times, people were more righteous, and for them Varuna was not fearsome at all, because he was just giving them back the results of their actions, nothing else. And there was nothing to fear about, because if you are doing the righteous action, what is there to fear for you? But on the other hand, when, of course, society started to degrade, when we started to go closer and closer to Kali Yuga, we also started to depict Varuna as very ugly, as a very fearsome deity. Because basically speaking, what we did, we just started to project our own actions onto him. Because we started to see, oh, he's going to give me results of my actions. He's scary. I will not pray to him. I don't want him in my home. So it's very sad in a way, but it's very beautiful to come back to this Vedic thought and to remember how Varuna was esteemed in the Vedas. He's even in some of the hymns said to be the highest of the Adityas. And it's very interesting if we think about it, because he's the god of the clouds, and he's the highest of the Adityas, the sun gods. And I also thought it's a beautiful metaphor here, because let's imagine that we have a cloudy sky and we want the sun to come in. Whom are we going to pray for, the sun or the clouds? The sun is always there. We need to pray to the clouds, honor the clouds. And similarly, we need to honor all the difficult experiences that Varuna may bring into our lives, because in them is hidden the actual light, the actual sun in our lives. And also Shatabhisa Nakshatra, I feel, is very strongly connected with this understanding of the law of karma and accepting the fruits of our actions. And along with that comes forgiveness. So not trying to blame somebody else, not trying to blame even oneself, just simply accepting the fruits of our actions and just offering them to God. That's really, I believe, all that Shatabhisa Nakshatra is about, ultimately. And the Anartha, so the negative quality that is connected to Shatabhisa Nakshatra is pride also. So again, it's very much connected to Rahu. And again, I noticed very often that especially if Rahu sits in this Shatabhisa Nakshatra, it can give very proud personality. That again is trying to think that this is not fair, something is happening to me that is not fair, that God is not fair, or the world is not fair. Because ultimately all of that just comes from pride and nothing else. And Shatabhisa Nakshatra is very, very special just from the point of view of these padas here. Because as we can see, there are only second chakra and first chakra. Just Muladhara and Swadhisthana are active here, nothing else. And this is perhaps, this nakshatra is so karmic in a way also. And so connected to return of all these negative experiences to us, because we need to experience that sooner or later. They need to come back sooner or later just to teach us something. But this is what really makes this nakshatra very special. And I also think that all these, let's say, difficult experiences that this nakshatra may bring are really just bringing us down, making us more humble. And this is also making us more grounded and connected to the world, really. So I think this is what it shows through these padas of the nakshatra itself. So that's all from me, Dr. Paiji.
Achala again, a fantastic description of this nakshatra. And I just wanted to add a couple of more points about Shatabhisa and the deity Varuna. Now, whenever you think about Varuna, what comes to your mind is whenever you talked about it, you already have spoken about his association in the Rig Veda, where he was initially associated with the sky and later on with the cosmic oceans rather. So, but later on you see, as you mentioned, it's very sad to note that because of his dominance over justice and truth and maintaining the dharma or the order of the cosmic order. So he's very, very strict about the cosmic order and he doesn't spare anybody. And that's why his noose or his pasha that we see there is rather his lasso that he uses to rein in people. And that's a typical tendency because of which he was kind of demoted to be called as an asura. And then Indra, superseded him to take over the prime position of being the god of the devas or the devatas or the godly forces. But Varuna, if you see, uh, it's very surprising to see the last three nakshatras that we discussed, which is Shravana Nakshatra, Dhanishta Nakshatra, and Shatabhisa Nakshatra. They are all called as Chara Nakshatras. Chara means movable. And even the word that you see, Varuna, okay, Varuna actually means blowing. Va means going, or that is or blowing. Runa, Runa means or Rina means your karmas or your debt, your karmic debts. So he is the bringer of, he blows the karmic debts towards you. That's why it's called Varuna. I mean, there are many interpretations of the same word, but I'm saying one of the interpretations of Varuna. Va means to blow or to or going. It's a chara. It's movable, and Runa means debt. And what you see with this nakshatra is these people kind of form a secret circle around them. It's just like the pasha or the lasso of Varuna, and they don't let everybody enter this um, sort of a circle that they have formed. A lot of secret societies in the ancient times, like the Druids, in the Celtic, they all were forms of, some forms or other, they were associated with this nakshatra. So Shatabhisa, as being ruled by, in Vimshottari Dasha system, is ruled by Rahu. You can see Shatabhisa is very much controls the skies. So you can see, I've seen a lot of people who have kind of association with aviation, avionics, including I've seen some people who have claimed to have seen aliens, UFOs, spacecrafts, unidentified flying objects. These are typically that you see with Shatabhisa Nakshatra. And as you rightfully mentioned, even Varuna is said to have, thousands of eyes. And that's what you see. This nakshatra is also very strongly connected to spies and espionage. So, so these are some of the key things that I've seen with Satabisha. Satabisha is also very strongly connected with flower remedies, Bach flower remedies that you have heard. I've seen people benefit a lot from Bach flower remedies because one of the symbols of Shatabishak is the 100 flowers. And people who have prominent planets here, I've seen typically benefit from these flower remedies. So, on a whole, I feel this is a very beautiful nakshatra. And second thing I want to say with Shatabishak is when the Samudra Manthan happened, the churning of the cosmic ocean of milk which happened, which is nothing but churning of your consciousness. The milk, the ocean of milk is nothing but your mind, and the Mandara mountain is akin to your consciousness, which is churning. And what you see is nothing but this whole event of Samudra Manthan is nothing but sometimes your thoughts go towards the Devas because the Vasuki is pulled on the side of Devas, and sometimes your thoughts are, you know, the thoughts are bad, and that's why they're pulled towards the Asuras. So this is the churning of the cosmic ocean, which is happening. That is the churning of the mind, and from that came the consort of Varuna, and she is called as Varuni.
Yes, I forgotten to talk about her. Yes, it's true. Varuni.
Varuni. And Varuni, her other name was Sura.
Mm,
And the famous intoxicant, the wine that we call, is called as the Varuni Sura.
mm,
And the Asura and the Daityas or the Danavas who were churning on one side of the Samudra Manthan, they didn't accept her. Okay,
mm,
so it's the gods accepted Varuni, and that's why they were called as Suras. The
mm,
ones who accepted Varuni were called as Suras, and those who rejected her or didn't accept her were called as Asuras.
mm.
That's the only difference. Asura doesn't mean wicked. Daityas and Danavas are a clan or tribe. They might have intentions which might not be, but what they do, the Daityas always are intoxicated with wine and all of that. So she serves the wine on the other side of the Asuras. Who are Asuras who believe in darkness or who live in darkness or there is ignorance. Ignorance is Asuras. Where there is light, where there is Surya, where there is light, these are or brightness, they are all Suras. So this is something I've seen with Shatabishak as well. Many people who have the inclinations towards having some addictions.
Yes.
Also I've seen a lot of people with the Shatabishak going towards attracted towards cross culturalism. And whatever we see today is the spurt in social media is all because of Shatabishak Nakshatra. That's what I've seen is because the world is shrinking with social media,
Yes.
and all this information exchange which is happening is bringing the world together or closer, and this is all because of Shatabishak. I feel a lot of the the cults that you have seen during the 70s and the 80s, which is the hippies,
Mm,
people who then we had the rock, what do you call the rockabilly, you know.
yeah.
Um, so all these cults were slowly trying to bring in Shatabishak Nakshatra, the qualities of Shatabishak. It's again, it's Rahu. It's all about trying to, and all these things that you see are coming together is because of this wonderful nakshatra which is Shatabishak. So that is
Very
something that. So did you want to add something about Varuni and Varuni Sura?
Yeah, one thing I just remembered, because there are so many different versions of this story, and one version that my Gurudev also said, which I also noticed, is kind of a quality of Shatabhisa Nakshatra people sometimes. So one version of the story says that actually Varuni went to the Asuras. So one other version says that he went to Suras, but
Correct.
it's always mixed in the scriptures. But interesting version how he said is that when Mahalakshmi first emerged, of course she went on herself by her own choice to Mahavishnu. That's why actually the Shakti of Uttara Falguni, one of its translations is the Shakti of choosing, because she chose her own husband. And then when Varuni came out, demons were just like, oh, but we want Varuni. Demigods have one woman, we want to have one woman also. Why not, you know? And but then ultimately it brought their destruction, actually, because they became drunk and they were not capable to thinking properly anymore. So I also noticed it in the life of the people whom I know who have very prominent Shatabhisa Nakshatra, that sometimes due to the fact that they want to make everything so equal, so righteous, and this kind of thinking, you got one thing, I want to have one thing too, they actually bring problems onto themselves. So that's just
Yeah.
one more thing I wanted to add.
Yeah. And another thing, I think what I've seen with this Shatabhisa Nakshatra is a very strong connection um, with Anuradha Nakshatra. Because in Rig Veda, when we
Yes,
see it's always Mitra Varuna,
yes.
Maitra Varuna, they're called Maitra Varuna or Mitra Varuna. So they're always paired. They're called as Devata Dvandvas.
Mm,
When they're called as dimorphic pairs. So they're always inseparable. And the mythology goes that Urvashi was, when Maitra and Varuna were going by the ocean, they found Urvashi and they were so overwhelmed with Urvashi that both of them wanted to go for the same woman. And that's when, their body was trying to, because they're like, one body, but two, that's how they depicted in some of the. And so because they became two identities and they tried to woo Urvashi, and Urvashi felt more for Mitra, because Mitra is all about friendship, youthfulness, and all of that. And and from them, there were two rishis who were born from, even the vital fluids of Varuna were Orvan, even though she had not accepted Varuna. But Urvashi accepts the seeds of Varuna and she puts them in a pot. And from the pot was born Agatsya Rishi. And that's why he was called as Kumbha Sambhava. Kumbha means pot. Sambhava means somebody who was born from him. So he was called as Kumbha Sambhava. And then you see there was, because he's born from Varuna. And then you see Varuna rules the western direction.
yes.
And Varuna is called as the midnight sun. So when the sun sets, that's when he becomes more prominent in the sky. And
Mm,
the stars are said to be his eyes. And he's always
yes.
keeping constant vigil on all the people and our actions. And you can also see that, once Agastya Rishi had drank all the oceans from the world, that is also another mythology. You can see how he could control the water element in the body,
Yes.
Agastya Rishi. And Agastya Rishi was on the, the south, the southern side, he was with, Muruga. So I have seen this connection with Satabisha, not only with Anuradha, but also very strongly with Kritika Nakshatra, because Kritika Nakshatra is the Pleiades, which is Kartikeya or Muruga. And Agastya Rishi was a great worshipper, a follower of the lineage of Kartikeya. So many of the scriptures in Tamil Nadu, in the southern part of India, you find a lot of connection. And he also written nadis. There is Agastya Nadi. So I've seen
Mm,
Satabisha Nakshatra people could also be very strongly associated with astrology and the interest in Nadi leaves, trying
yes.
to get a reading from Nadis or the scriptures. This is something that because they're fascinated by this. And from Mitra and Urvashi, Vasishtha Rishi was born.
Mm.
Okay, and there you see the staff of Vasishtha is one of the symbols in Anuradha Nakshatra. A staff is a symbol, and the staff of Vasishtha Rishi is supposed to be very, very important because he maintained all his powers in the staff that he was carrying. And it was always about friendship. If you see, Vasishtha Rishi always had a lot of differences with Vishwamitra because
Yes.
Vishwamitra was constantly trying to overpower him or try to show one. But Vasishtha never lost his cool. And it was eventually it was Vasishtha Rishi who elevated Vishwamitra from being a Raja Rishi to a Maharishi, and from a Maharishi, eventually he was promoted to the ranks of a Brahma Rishi, and that
Mm.
was because of Vasishtha Rishi himself, who was a Brahma Rishi. So there are fascinating things that you can see a very strong connection with all these nakshatras when you talk about Shatabhisa.
Mm.
But
Very beautiful analogy.
yeah, very fascinating. And but every different Puranas will give you various accounts,
Yeah.
Archaeology, and that's why you need to read various accounts and various,
Mm.
folklores and different folklores, different legends and different Puranas, can give you a lot of clues.
Definitely. And I think it's very important also because ultimately, even in Srimad Bhagavatam, it's written like the Lord's Leela is Nitya Leela. It always happens. So it's so even now when we are talking about some Leela of Krishna, we can be sure it's happening in some of the universes, this or the other. So I also feel that perhaps from this comes the differences also, because each universe is slightly different. So we never know from which exact universe the Purana is coming or the Veda is
Yes,
coming. And I
true,
believe that because of that, each of them can give us these little bits of and pieces that we can collect and know more, really.
true, true. Very true. Okay, so it was great having you, Achalaji, as always. And these discussions, I really love them because every time I discuss with you, some new things come up, some new points come up. So, but I'm very grateful for you again for coming and teaching us. So we'll see you again tomorrow for another nakshatra, which is Purva Bhadrapada. So thank you very much.
Thank you very
Namaste.
much, Balaji. Namaste.